Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. You can hear me? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so today I'm inviting you to join me as we contemplate happiness, our own happiness and the happiness of others. Well, what do you think? Can we all be happy? And what is happiness? And how are we going about it? And are we aligning our happiness with our humanity so that we can contribute to the happiness of others? And I'm talking about all people. I know this is an education conference, but teachers are people too. Administrators are people too. Children are people too. So why can't we all be happy? I'm Rania Badreldin. I'm a happiness consultant, speaker, writer, social entrepreneur, and I've dedicated a very large part of my life focusing on happiness and well-being. Yet I wasn't always focusing on my own well-being, so it was a rough journey of learning how I can take care of myself and my happiness and at the same time help other people. So I'm on a global mission to help people unlock their inner happiness and simultaneously help contribute to a happier world for all of us. So I'm also a grandmother and a mother of 3. And this is just a little bit about me, but let's get straight into the topic of happiness. Okay, why? Why is it important to discuss happiness? Most of us want to be happy, and we all deserve to be. Yet people continue to struggle, and we continue to see on an individual and on a collective level a great deal of unhappiness. We have wars going on. We have people struggling with their mental well-being. Yet we've had an abundance, especially in the last 2 decades, of wellness gurus and life coaches and books and so much improvement actually in well-being. Yet why are we still where we are today, whether on an individual or on a global level? And why is happiness important? One of the reasons is simply people do better when they feel better. And part of the happiness practices is to feel better, not that happiness is about feeling good all the time. And that's a very important differentiation. We'll talk about what happiness is in the first place on the next slide, but for now, why is it important? Because when people are happier, you have increased creativity, innovation, productivity, and a whole lot more energy. You have lower levels of stress, stronger immune system, greater life expectancy, and very importantly, you have an increase in kindness and compassion. You have an increase in inner peace and therefore outer peace, and obviously stronger relationships. And we could use that on any level, whether on the level of households within the family, or in schools, or in a corporate level, and certainly on a global level. We need more kindness, compassion, we need more peace. But what is happiness anyway? Well, first let me ask, yes, who wants to be happy? You raised your hand, right? Okay, so raise your hands if you want to be happy. Okay, that's good. So most people want to be happy. Okay, so are you happy? So those who raised their hands, raise your hand again if you want to be happy. And then, okay, are you happy? Keep it up if you are happy. So most people who want to be happy are happy. Some people who want to be happy aren't happy. Okay, understandably, I get it. And so we need to just establish a few fundamentals first. So my fundamentals are that everyone deserves to be happy. And by everyone, I mean everyone. So all human beings on this planet deserve to be happy. Yet many people, and maybe even most people on this planet, are not happy. That's an important topic to be discussing. Another fundamental is that happiness starts and ends in your mind. What I mean by that is that we process life through our senses. Everything starts here. Okay, we see something, we hear something, We have a thought. The thought leads to a feeling, and then an action, and then we take action, and then that action affects us, and then it affects somebody else, and it has a ripple effect. And that ripple effect can be a good ripple effect or a not so good ripple effect. So your mind is an important thing to discuss when we talk about happiness. And another thing to discuss when we talk about happiness is now. So when do you want to be happy? Think about it. Those who raise their hand and say they want to be happy, do you want to be happy in the past? Okay. Do you only want to be happy in the future? You most likely want to be happy right here, right now. So happiness is very much not about the past, not about the future, but about right here, right now. So my invitation to you is to make happiness a priority. And now in order to prioritize happiness, obviously, we need to understand it, okay? So what is it and what isn't it? Both are very important questions. So science, a lot of the research lately, in the last couple of decades, science has showed us some insights on what happiness is and isn't. And of course, we have age-old wisdom that also gives us many insights. So one of the insights, this is a study done by Sonia Lubomirsky and her colleagues, is that 40% of happiness is under our control. That might not sound like a lot, but it is. Because 50%, according to their study, 50% of happiness was genetics. So we're kind of born with a certain baseline that we can then build on. And we can all build on it, so we don't have to worry about the 50%. And that 10% of happiness is our life circumstances. Now, granted, some people's life circumstances are dire, and they will struggle with some of the concepts I will tell you about. That's why I feel it's on the rest of us to help prevent some of those circumstances that some people are in, because it's very hard to be happy if you have bombs being thrown on your head. So I cannot just tell you that it's 10% of life circumstances if you're in those circumstances. That's why I think it's an important topic for us to discuss globally as a collective, as humanity. Anyway, back to the 40%. 40% of happiness is in our control. It's through our thoughts and actions, which are the only two things we can control. We cannot control other people's thoughts and actions. We can control our thoughts and actions. And through those two things, we have a lot that we can do towards our individual happiness. Another thing about happiness that researchers have found is the idea of pleasure and purpose. So through the history of happiness, researchers had different opinions about that. And at some point, there was like a European philosophy of what's called the hedonistic view of happiness, which is that it's all pleasure and just seeking more and more pleasure. And sure, that feels great, but it's not sustainable. And so more importantly and more sustainably is to have purpose. Now, I'm not saying we don't also want pleasure. It's a mix of pleasure and purpose, but having something purposeful that you do in your life that is larger than you, that is maybe to do with helping other people, has been found to lead to more sustainable happiness than simply chasing pleasures, because those pleasures don't last and you need more of them to feel the same level of happiness and so on. So it's called being on a hedonic treadmill, and that's not a sustainable definition of happiness. So there's a researcher, a very renowned researcher, his name is Ed Diener, and his definition of happiness is that happiness is your subjective well-being, which he says is your cognitive and affective evaluation of your own life. And so then through that you can measure your happiness on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being the least level of happiness and 10 being the highest, and you can simply ask yourself, how happy am I today? And it might be a 7 or an 8, or it might be a 4 or a 10. And based on that, you can assess, okay, well, where is the area that I think if I make a change, I can be happier? And then you can take action towards that, even if it's a tiny step. Okay, so subjective well-being is 2 things, as he defines it. It's your overall satisfaction with life, so the different areas of your life, and that might include a career, family, relationships, health and fitness, personal development, spirituality, whatever areas that you consider are areas of your life. So you kind of measure how satisfied am I in those areas. So that's part of the definition of happiness or subjective well-being. The other part, and that's really important, is how do you process the very, very wide range of normal human emotions. And this is something that they call emodiversity. And so that's why it's important to recognize that happiness is not about joy. It's not about feeling good all the time. Those things are important. But happiness, in order for it to be a sustainable definition, needs to encompass all the emotions that are normal for us to feel as human beings, including anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. We will experience those. The point is, how will we process those? To what extent are we able to regulate those and feel them first and then let go of them? And at the same time, to what extent can we cultivate positive emotions so that they're there for us when we need them the most? When things are, when life is tough, when things are rough. There are many happiness boosting practices and there are many obstacles to happiness. You probably know a lot about the happiness boosting practices, things like practicing gratitude, things like mindfulness, meditation, affirmations, acts of kindness that actually help us, things like forgiveness, learning to forgive somebody. It's a process, but it releases us of something that we no longer need to hold on to. So it's for us, not for the other person. Things like going out into nature, connecting with other people, and of course obvious things like eating well and sleeping enough and moving our bodies. So many happiness boosting practices that we may know of, but are we doing them? And so maybe pick one today that you've heard of and think is valuable for you, but haven't been doing it, and maybe do that. And maybe just pick one a week or one a month or anything that you think is beneficial, that is maybe a better habit than maybe some of the negative habits that we sometimes find ourselves falling into. Do that. Obstacles to happiness are many as well. One of them is social comparison. And of course, with social media, it's so easy to fall into that trap of comparing our real lives to somebody's online life that hardly shows anything really of what their real life is like. So social comparison, perfectionism, living in the past or living in the future, so many obstacles to happiness. So we need to be more aware of those. And another thing to bear in mind always is that this is your happiness. So your happiness means you decide what that means to you. Somebody here might love broccoli and rock climbing and sewing and listening to classical music. And they'll tell you that that's the definition of their happiness. If I tell you you have to follow that definition, are you going to be happy? No, you might not like those things. So create your own definition of what happiness means to you. And remember that it will include the pain that we will sometimes experience in life, and that's okay too. One of my favorite definitions that I came across for happiness is to follow your highest excitement with integrity and with zero attachment or expectation of the outcome. So just do what lights you up. Do it in a way that's true to you and your values. And then whatever happens, know that you will be there and you will adapt. And that's okay. It doesn't have to always go your way. So I have 5 practical steps to happiness that I'm actually writing about in my book that will be published in March, that I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute. And these are my 5 steps to bring more happiness into your life and hopefully all of ours too. And maybe help change the world. The first step is you. It all starts in here. And this step arguably is 3 steps. My son pointed out to me that, hey, wait, that's 3 steps, it's not 1. I'm like, yes, I know. It's because it's about self-love. However, in order to reach self-love, for some people, you cannot just jump to that. It's hard for them. And so you really need to just get to know yourself first, like you get to know somebody else. Get to know yourself. There's a lot of good stuff there. So get to know yourself, accept yourself the way you are right now, this minute, whatever that is, and know that from there, you can grow, you can change, you can be a different version of yourself. But get to know yourself first, accept it first, and then you'll find your way to love. And it starts with you loving yourself. Step 2 is to let go of things that are standing in the way of your ability to love yourself and to love other people. And those might be limiting beliefs, they might be inner conflicts that you have, things that you developed in the first 6 years of life when your mind was like a sponge. And we need to let go of some of those things, unresolved emotions, traumatic experiences that we've had that have affected us, that no longer need to affect us in the same way. They can still affect us, but in a way that we've learned from them and we've grown from them, and we can actually pass on something beautiful to the world because of them. Number 3, when you have learned to love yourself and to let go of things that aren't serving you, you can now master your mindset and your emotions, the 2 things that are so crucial to your well-being and your fulfillment, is to master your mindset. What am I thinking? And then therefore, what will I do? And how am I feeling? And how can I feel better, while honoring that I'm not feeling very good as well? So not to dismiss that. And then when we do those 3 things, and of course all these steps happen simultaneously throughout life because we're always on a journey, but then we are going to just simply be, because we're human beings, and human beings can just be still, be in silence, be with yourself, and then other times you will do, and to find that delicate balance between the being and the doing. And when we do, we're doing things anyway, right? So then we might as well do things that are aligned with the happiness definition that we have created for ourselves. And then finally, when we've figured out how we want to be and what we want to do, just keep moving. Just keep moving, whatever that movement is. You'll do something, it'll work out, it won't work out, you'll do something else, and do it through a lens of love, is what I would suggest. And then, I don't know if you can see the heart in the sky. I was walking in Maadi in Cairo, Egypt one day, where I'm from, and there was a heart in the sky, and I took this picture. I was like, okay, wow, love is all around us. So why don't we come together for a happier world? And notice that my steps started with love and ended with love. The love from the inside can then come outside. I don't think we're seeing a whole lot of love in our world leaders right now. If they were loving themselves, if they had worked through all of the things that they needed to let go of, maybe the world would be more peaceful. And not just peace, justice, freedom, dignity for every human being on the planet. So what we need, let me take a step back. This is a definition that I came up with as I was writing the book, which is happiness is a natural state of being where love flows freely from the inside out. And for love to flow from the inside, we need to get rid of those things that are in the way so that we're filled with love, and then it flows outwardly. And what we need then is to focus on other people as well, to notice that we don't live alone in the world, and to become active participants so that we can realize and visualize and imagine a happier world for everybody on the planet, no matter who they are or where they live or where they happen to be born, because they didn't make that choice. It was made for them. Why Can't We All Be Happy is my book, due to be published in March. In fact, if you check it out on Amazon now, you'll find that you can pre-order the ebook if you'd like. My name is Rania Badreldin. You can Google Rania Badreldin, the Happiness Consultant, or the title of my book. Thank you for listening. These are my social media links if you'd like to reach out to me. Instagram is one of my favorite ones. And thank you for your time today, and let's all be happy.